Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Fungus Frank, and today what we will be doing is a different type of build challenge that I randomly came up with the idea and thought I would roll with it. And in this case, what I'll be doing is, as you can see on the screen, we have a spinner wheel. And for today's build challenge, I selected a lot of random aircrafts off the internet, and I put them into this list, and I figured I'd spin the wheel and actually maybe select something random. And I figured each week I go through, what I'll do is I'll end up removing the plane until we finish the list, and then we create a whole new list of aircrafts and go off hopefully some comments and suggestions. But today we're going to spin the wheel and see what we'll be building. All right, let's take a quick guess. Let's go ahead and spin the wheel and see what we're building today. Okay, well, it looks like we are building the Hawker Hurricane. I'll be honest, I don't know a darn thing about this thing, so let me do some research. We'll jump into Trailmakers and we'll start building, and then we'll test it out, fly it, and see what it does. I'll see you guys over in Trailmakers. Okay, now once I jumped into the build, right away I actually started working on the nose of the plane, throwing in some space thrusters to give the plane a little extra speed. And while matching the shape of the nose, I also was looking at the way the fuselage transitions into the tail, and you can see that the 1x4 angled blocks actually match that slope really well, which I was happy with, and started working on the rear landing gear here, and actually working on getting the piston glitch to work, where I can make the tail have a single vertical stabilizer and be in a sense the 2-to-1 dimensions. Adding in the rear landing gear now and trying to shape out the tail. The tail on this one came out fairly easy, or came to be easily in this sense, because the shape was fairly easy to mimic. And in this one, I was just trying to, right here, I'm currently trying to get the shape of the transition from the fuselage to the tail to be a little more smooth. And I had a hard time with this. I kept having jagged edges, and if I added too many blocks, the piston glitch wouldn't work, and it wouldn't phase any of the blocks into the others. So it was really kind of a struggle, and I spent a lot of time trying to get the shape down, and for the shape to actually hold and look good without the glitching. And then I worked on the air intake for the engine, which sits on the belly of the plane. Got that shaped out fairly easily, and then worked on the shape of the wings. Nice rounded wings for the Hurricane, filling in with just a little bit of lift in the front, and then kind of filler blocks in between, just to make it fit the profile of the wing as close to as possible. I ended up moving the engines closer to the nose, and jumping into the shape of the tail. I remember to take note of the Hurricane's tail. The rear elevators have like a cutout in the shape of a V. There's a couple test flights. I noticed, like with my first flight for sure, that it would pitch up really high, so you'll see that I ended up flipping the module wings upside down so they wouldn't produce lift, and they would actually have a downforce. Then I started working on the front landing gear, and in this plane in particular, the landing gear folds into the center of the fuselage, so I was trying to match that as best I can. And luckily with the steering hinges, it does allow for blocks to tend to phase into themselves, and I got that to line up pretty good. So you can really see the shape of the plane starting to come together. I'm adding a few accessories like blasters and a few other things to make the plane more complete, have some weaponry, be able to shoot people down eventually. And then started painting everything. A few more test flights, banging into stuff, flying horribly. And then just a few tweaks were happening here. So I was adjusting gyro strength just to be a little bit stronger, and I ended up adjusting the speed at which the flaps actuate on the wings, because I noticed the roll was really slow and sluggish. So I ended up having to adjust those, tweak them to be a little more sensitive so the plane would fly a little bit more smooth. And then shortly after a few more flights and crashing, I ended up jumping into painting it, which was by far the next, actually probably the least favorite part about this plane, was for me to try to match the camo on the image you see in the top right, because I mean, I really struggled in the color palette. Like once they updated it, they added quite a few colors to the palette, which is nice, but none of them really matched that bronze tone. So I ended up kind of settling for this tan, and I was really kind of indifferent towards it. I really wanted it to work, but I just couldn't get the right kind of color scheme that I wanted. And in the very beginning of doing the decals, you could see that I ended up masking over the windows so it actually matched the shape of the cockpit a little more accurately. And here I'm using all sorts of different shapes. I was testing and trying so many different shapes out that would hopefully work for the plane as far as the camouflage. You can see a few color changes there, trying to match it closer, but just couldn't get anything that really worked, in my opinion. But I'm trying different decals out. I just really was trying to get this camo to work into my liking, which I spent quite a big deal of time on. So yeah, I ended up using skulls a lot during the camouflage just because I thought they had nice curvature and they ended up working really well for the camouflage. I was adding the targets on the wing too. That was a little tricky. I was having to kind of mix and play with the flat eyepiece to get it to be the right colors. Ended up settling with like a few little white splotches in there, but at least got the the iconic yellow, blue, white, and red for the I believe it's the UK Air Force. I don't know. I think it was the British. I didn't really look too much into the plane. I really just got some images. Was like, okay, let's build it. Working on the air intake. So the real plane has a split intake. So there's like a piece of metal that runs down the middle. And initially, I was trying to mimic that the best I could. I was trying all sorts of different pieces, and I ended up just settling for the skull. Turned it upside down into where it just was a normal round intake. But finishing up the paint job, looks like we're all finished. Alrighty guys, we have finished the Hurricane. I did enjoy building this plane. It was not much of a challenge for me in this case. However, it was nice to be able to try to utilize the folding landing gear to go into the center as a plane does have in real life. But let's go ahead and give this thing a test flight and see how it does. And I did inspire the paint job off of an image online. I'll show it in the top right. And that was definitely something I was trying to go for as far as the camo was concerned. I still think it came out a little funny. Working with what Trailmakers gives us, this is the best we've got. But handles like a dream, just with the help of that gyros. It doesn't do too much, but just enough to help keep this plane stable. I'm a huge fan of how well the yaw works. The yaw does operate with a very, very minimal roll, and you can counter it very easily. So the yaw turns it really well. And I honestly just say I'm actually really proud of this build. I think it came out pretty darn good. So yeah, we'll continue the series, and if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like, and we will definitely try to come back for another build in the wheel that we have. And nailed it, buttery smooth landing. And but yeah, definitely the next episode I'll spin the wheel again, and we'll see what we get as far as building the next plane, and we'll see what comes up. But I've been Fungus Frank. Thank you guys for watching. See ya.